We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
I want to bring in Rina Shah, who's a political advisor. She joins us now from Washington, D.C. here. Rina, I'm sure you just heard the president speaking in those pre-taped video remarks there a little bit about the narrative that you heard from the president, which is this is a fraudulent election. He continues to double down on these claims, urging his supporters. Do you consider the president's actions a provocation of his supporters and what we saw today?
Without a doubt, the president of the United States incited violence today, and I believe he needs to be held accountable. I think the first step that can be taken is for him to be impeached and removed. And without a doubt, that is a kind of action that our Constitution would want. Our founders would have wanted this action. In fact, they've laid out specific things in the Constitution for this very purpose. This president wants to be a dictator. He's pouring gasoline on the fire, and it is shame on him. And this is a permanent stain on the Republican Party.
You know, I actually want to pick up on the fact that you said it's a permanent stain on the Republican Party. There's a lot of questions right now as to the identity of the Republican Party. We just saw these Georgia Senate runoffs, and you had the president going to rally on behalf of those Republican senators. And I wondered in my head if that was actually going to give them a political boost, or if Republicans would now want to distance themselves from the president, particularly given his actions and the fact that he has not respected the democratic process in the certification of the president-elect Joe Biden's win. What is the identity of the Republican Party right now?
Well, unfortunately, the identity is colored by the dozen senators as well as the some 140 members of the House that wanted to object to the certification of the Electoral College's results. And that is the problem that is laid bare right now, this very moment, is that there cannot be a reckoning in this Republican Party without a full-on acceptance that Donald J. Trump has been, quite frankly, an aberration. If you look at modern Republicans, nobody has ever been a character of this type. Nobody has led us on the course to autocracy at such a rapid pace. And so what's going to happen is that senior Republicans who faced what they face today in the halls of Congress, in the very seat of power that they hold, they must be shook. And they have to be shaken to a point where they decide that something massive has to happen. And that massive thing that can happen can be the pressure on the cabinet and the vice president to invoke the 25th Amendment. It cannot happen without a determination that's made like that. It's not just something that's pulled and suddenly done by Mike Pence. It takes the cabinet to agree. And so these are people that actually are Trump loyalists typically, and they have to make that decision. My sense, though, is that today's Republican leaders want this to fade away, just like they've wanted the past 4 years to fade away of Trump. And they want to approach again tomorrow's, whenever they gather again to certify this Electoral College result, they want it to sort of be water under the bridge. The problem is these images, the video, the violence, the one person now having lost their life amidst all the pandemonium today, that will not go away, and it should not go away. Americans need to remain outraged and put pressure on their lawmakers of all parties, both parties, to do the right thing and to do away with Donald Trump in these last 2 weeks that he has left.
Now, nearly 4 hours after we saw those pro-Trump insurgents storm the Capitol and breach Capitol grounds, disrupting that electoral count, officials are now saying that the Capitol has been secured. But I guess my question now is, how does Congress proceed with the certification of these results? Should it be done tonight? I mean, what are the options at this point?
Well, I must say one thing is that today's events have been very close to home for me because it was 10 years ago this very week that I left Capitol Hill. I was a senior staffer to two Republican members of the House of Representatives, and I had done that job for a few years. And it was probably my most remarkable experience in Washington. Being in those halls of Cannon House Office Building, for example, which was evacuated today, was not just a privilege and an honor, but a joy. And I can't imagine how people felt today with a sense that they go to work every day with the Capitol already being secured, never being at vulnerability for this kind of event. The images I saw of these protesters, the Stop the Steal protesters on the dais in the chamber of the Senate was beyond, I have no words for it. I'm speechless. I'm rocked by it. I'm shaken by it. I was just actually, I was a couple blocks away and I was watching that unravel. I'd never seen protesters breach the perimeter the way they did, at the rate at which they did, and with the force at which they did. I still have the sounds of tear gas and fireworks in my ears from the past 6 hours. Today was a day that I think not just goes down in history, but really lands in the hearts and minds of every American who thought we were better than this. This is, yes, a small demographic of very upset, concerned fellow American citizens of mine who had a right to demonstrate peacefully, but they did not. They chose to do the opposite. They took the signal from their leader, Donald J. Trump, who is not willing to go out without further assaulting our democracy. So what I see from henceforth is that frankly, whatever the House and Senate chooses to do, I hope they do so carefully, safely, and with much, much consideration, because this event today, I don't think is an aberration. I feared this very moment. I feared these last few weeks of the president's occupancy of the Oval Office, and I feared what it could do to me and the safety that I've always felt in my community and for my fellow Americans as well. So right now, at this very moment, it's really up to Congress to do the right thing and to see to it that they do it safely so that these kind of events stop from occurring, because I don't see an end to it otherwise.
Rina Shah, when we talk about this story, obviously as reporters, as journalists, as analysts, it's impossible. It is impossible, especially living here in Washington, D.C., not to talk about the climate that we're in and the way that it makes us feel and the uncertainty surrounding all of this, and just that gut check that you have that, yes, things did feel like they were boiling up to this point. I really appreciate you sharing your personal perspective on that as well as your professional one. Rina Shah, thanks so much for that.